Hey everyone, welcome to Pastor Play. So today we have Chris Rock, Selective Outrage, currently streaming on Netflix. And Chris Rock, who's now 58 years old, kind of gives his take on the selective outrage of the consciousness and or self-righteousness of people in US of A. And his particular how he views the, you could either say, hypocrisy or in some cases the contentment of what people choose and choose not to see, either the questioning decisions or the questioning politics or the questioning consequences of what people either are saying or doing, how they kind of pick and choose depending on maybe your narrative, who you are, where you come from. Is it based on money? Is it based on politics? Is it based on, whatever kind of who you are as a person? Maybe you're not a good person, maybe you're a bad person, whatever. It's just kind of like this selective outrage, depending on how it benefits your particular life or your particular narrative and how you think and view the world. And he says America's biggest problems is attention, and how individuals go about getting it is usually, four ways. One is by, derriere, being infamous, being excellent. He gave examples like Serena Williams, someone like Tiger Woods, people who excel in different sports or music, or maybe they're like very smart, intelligent, what they contribute to the world, to society in a hopefully a positive way, or what they're able to accomplish in their lives. And then he says number four, which is the last, which is playing the victim. And in a lot of cases, a lot of his commentary are on different specific people or specific subjects, context wise, on how people are playing the victim or how they use their circumstances to, I guess he said, get attention for likes. Um, And overall, I liked the special. I thought he was funny throughout. And just seeing Creed, I felt like he was giving a lot of 1-2 punches. He would kind of ease you into it, and then he would kind of go off. Towards the end, when he actually gets when he talks about Will and Jada, that's when he kind of I feel like he really kind of got that off his chest. And he kind of slipped up when he talked about, he meant to say concussion versus he said emancipation, which just came out towards the tail end of last year, or like top of this year. That movie came out when it was concussion at the time, because Jada told him that he shouldn't have accepted hosting the Oscars, because Will Smith didn't get nominated for concussion, which I don't even remember seeing that movie. So I am not the one to give commentary on, was that an Oscar nominated performance or not. A lot of times the Oscars don't even necessarily get it right. It's like Angela Angela Bassett should have won for What's Love Got to Do with It. If she wins for, Wakanda, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, great. I do think that she gives an excellent performance. I do hope that she wins, but a lot of times, sometimes, it's like when Denzel Washington won for oh God, I can't even think of that movie. He won for the movie where basically he kind of played the bad guy. Um, Even though he did win an Oscar before, but there were like other performances that he should have won an Oscar for. Even though, particularly in that film, and I can't think of the name of that film right now. He's like, King Kong ain't got nothing on me. I just can't think of the name of that film, but he really basically won because he just kind of played outside of the normal characters that he plays. Like when sometimes they give it to the actors when, if let's say they're like a very good looking, man or woman or whatever, sometimes if they like do prosthetics to, like, with a nose or the mouth or the chin or something. They muddy themselves up. Like when Charlize Theron won for Monster, because she didn't look like herself at all. She looked completely different to an extent. I mean, but usually when they kind of do, they kind of go, they're more far removed from how they're seen or perceived, I guess, like in their normal, day to day as an actress or an actor, that sometimes when you will see them get those Oscars, or in the case of like someone like Jamie Foxx, where he was so good and undeniable that it's like there was no one else who who had did a performance like him that was that great that year. It was like undeniable. It's like he was so good that it's like if you give it to somebody else, then it's just something shady going on. But either way, well, yeah, since I started talking about Will, Suge Smith, let's start there. I will say that Will Smith and I don't want to start blaming people, but Jada Smith's Red Table Talk really has undermined their overall brand. Now, it has been years that I have heard, the rumblings and the, that they're swingers or whatever. Now, this is what people have always said, and of course, people who actually knew them knew what was actually going on. But I mean, until you actually like speak on it, it's just what people are saying. It's just rumors. It's just hearsay. She said, he said. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not true. I don't know what you do when you go home. It ain't none of my damn business necessarily. But once she started doing the Red Table Talk, she started putting maybe some subject matter, sure, you can spot like mental health or her alopecia, certain things that correlate, that give more depth and things in your interviews. Like, I get that, you can use, you can bring in family members and get their perspectives on it if it affects them personally, but everything doesn't need to be at the red table. And if it does, you need to keep it at your kitchen table in your house, without any cameras, without somebody recording it. And unfortunately, that was done, it seems, of their own, of their own fruition, of their own decision making. And that has, kind of, it's really undermined their overall brand, their overall perception. But they did that to themselves. And I think Chris Rock was very right. He's like, it's selective outrage, and it's more like transference. He did get a time to keep jabbing in the B word, like B word, the Breakfast Club, The View. I don't even know if The View called. I don't think The View called Will Smith a B word, but I could be wrong. But he said the champs, all these different, the B word, right? And is it a B move to attack or hit someone who's smaller than you, or who is not like a fair size to size advantage? Yeah, it is. And when he said that, he's like, it did hurt. I still got summertime ringing in my ears. I mean, so a lot of that, again, a lot of it was just funny. I mean, a lot of, he was funny throughout. I don't really think it lagged in any one part of his special. I do overall wish that it was a little bit longer, but I mean, I think he only really needed 1 hour. I bet he had way more material and way more examples of issues that he could have maybe dug in a little bit more, or just had more, probably even more variety, but he honed in on the ones that he really thought would do the most impact. And I think at the end of that, I mean, I think at the overall hour long, I think it's a nice given, it's a good special overall. Like, he picked everything that he wanted. That was probably the more poignant, um to the overall theme of the selective outrage. So I get it. But yeah, I think that Will Smith, even though it seems like he wanted to support Jada and what she was doing, and I think Jada, Red Table Talk has had some good things, some good things and good conversations come out of that. I think that she probably, everything that I just think that she doesn't, did not or does not need to share everything about her personal lives. Pick and choose specific topics, but don't go too deep where that did a lot of damage again to their brand. And sleeping with August Alsina, her son's Jaden's friend or whatever. I mean, it just did a lot of it did way more harm than good. And that I remember that interview. It was just awkward. Will Smith just there looking. Yeah, and he's like, yeah, and Chris, like, he's like, why would you do that? Like, I did this. I did this to August. She's like, I did this and this and this with August Alsina. How do you feel about that? So yeah, it didn't make any sense. It's like maybe have other couples come in and talk about. Maybe have a couple who comes in who stayed together after cheating. One couple who didn't, like, get other people to tell their stories. Maybe speak on it to an extent, but like don't give any in-depth details like what was done. Um, Even though August Alsina used that as well to his benefit too. I mean, but once they put it out there, I mean, then it's public consumption. So I mean, if you want to, you know, yeah, I mean, I understand Chris Rock's point of view, and a lot of that was Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's of their own doing. I don't necessarily think that they were victims. If they were, it was victims of their own choices. I don't think that necessarily any of these people are bad. I mean, I don't know any of them personally, but I think that they kind of done they kind of did it to themselves, unfortunately. Whether or not it's fair, who am I to say? Now he also let's go into some of these other topics. I don't He talks about the Capitol riots and sp- specifically, Caucasian men in this country feeling like feeling like that they're kind of, they've that things are no longer in their favor. The government is not for them, and all these different things. And he's like, you're attacking something that you created and built. And he's like, who are you fighting? Us, right? I think he goes into a good point. I will say that historically, and this is just like a zoomed out thing on this. I will say that this historically, and this is not to any specific person, but historically, that particular race has done more damage to other races more than anybody. Now, picking on different races, what the cultures have done historically, this part of the world, that part of the world. But historically, and it's documented that race has done more damage to the majority of all other races and cultures than anybody. I will say that based on based on the history of the actions, I think that it does, in some instances, has to come around. They talk about cosmic justice, karma. What goes around comes around. Some people may not. Some people say, I don't believe in karma. I remember when I was younger, I was like, I was talking to my grandma, and I was like, Grandma, I don't necessarily believe in God because I don't see him. I don't know. I'm like, I can't necessarily trust people that I can see and, whatever, you can like touch and actually see, because not everybody is good. There are bad people in the world, of course. And this is like me being younger, but I still remember this conversation. And she said, well, you may not believe in God, but he believes in you. And I'm like, hey, I feel like it's the same thing. You may not believe in karma, but it believes in you. You may not believe in, well, some people, even if you don't believe in evil, you can certainly say that in this world, there are like evil acts and people who do acts that are evil and volatile and violent and creepy and disturbing and whatever. So even if you don't, like, if you don't believe in evil, well, evil believes in you. So I mean, just being aware of the world that we live in, being aware of the history. But now, even in certain parts of the country, now now they're trying to take out the parts of history that really it seems that some people just don't like, or some people don't even want to discuss with their own children, or some people they feel uncomfortable. Well, this is the history that it happened, so you can't take it back. I mean, you can take it from being seen in a public consumption way at the libraries and get it from being taught in the schools, but if people want to find information they can. And I think that again, I think that historically that race has done a lot, has killed a lot of people um in its, I guess, in a sense, to show who's the more dominant, or who's the most important, or who's the more hierarchy, who's the more prominent, whatever you really want to call that. And I think that if people if certain individuals feel that now they're kind of, I guess, at the bottom end of the barrel of society, or their overall race is, I mean, I feel like that has a big part to do with it. But since nobody wants to acknowledge history, even though always hear these people saying, you have to learn from the past, what the past that nobody wants to talk about, that nobody wants to actually deal with, and nobody actually wants to make sure that the mistakes of the past are not being repeated, because you don't even want to bother reading about it, talking about it, thinking about it, because it makes you uncomfortable. I mean, so, what is even the point? And I think from there, we're probably going to go into when he talks about pro life and pro choice. And he was blunt, abortion is just a fancy way of saying, he's like killing babies. Some people were kind of like, there was a little bit of laughter, clap. People didn't really know how to respond to that. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. When you think about how, America still hasn't found a way to figure out the gun laws, but they found a way to make sure that a lot of the states now, it's, abortion is illegal, or how they found a way to control the fact that women do not necessarily and cannot necessarily decide on the right to abortion, their child, or the baby that they're carrying, or however you want to look at that, first trimester, second trimester. I'm not really going to go into the semantics. At the end of the day, it's a choice that is made. I'm assuming, I mean, I know people who've done it, and it was not a choice that is made lightly. Um, a lot of my friends that I know who've done that, they still regret that choice. And they have to live with it. I don't think that it is a choice that is made likely. I don't think that people necessarily want to make that choice. Could some people be doing it for selfish reasons? Yes, but sometimes, yes, there are things of incest, there's things of rape. um you know I mean, I feel like, when they talk about, the I'm sorry, five, when they talk about the 10 commandments, right? One is thou shalt not kill. I think at the end of the day, I don't know what happens when people die, but let's say, the Bible is, let's say everything in the Bible is true in its most literal sense, right? So when you pass away, you have your judgment day. Any actions that you have made in your life kind of gets revisited, and you have to stand in front of the God and Jesus, and kind of go over the sins that you've committed. Well, you would have to stand in your choices. So I mean, once you've done the choice, you can't take it back. Again, I do think that I feel like it's a hard thing to argue. I mean, it's like pro-life, pro-choice. I mean, yeah, I feel like, I feel like it is a woman's right to choose what they want. If that decision is something that they have to make, I don't think it's going to be something chosen likely. Now, if the woman making the choice does not see the I guess, sees the overall difficulty in that. Maybe that's just on the individual, but I think at least the women that I know who've made that decision, no one made it likely, and again, they're still dealing with it even to this day, though it could have been, 10, 20, whatever many years ago. I think it is not something that is done likely either way. But I do find it interesting that they found a way to figure that out with women and abortions, but they still haven't figured out a way to figure out how to get gun control under control. They still keep like, we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to do it because Republicans and Democrats. It seems, and this is both. I don't care about what party you are. It's I don't care. But like as far as these politicians, a lot of the NRA, they give a lot of money to these different politicians, and unfortunately, I think that because of that, that's why this has not been this is why they can't find some kind of resolution, because they figured out how to do these abortion laws very quickly. It was like they set it in motion, people didn't see it coming, and then they just kind of did it right really quickly. So they could do the same thing with gun laws and guns controls if they wanted to, but they don't. And at the end of the day, it seems pretty clear that they don't seem to care about the lives of these kids that are dying. And it has nothing to do with, I don't even care about it. It's like, I look at it from the big picture. Kids are dying. The problems, people don't kill, guns don't kill people, people kill people. But um, all semantics, those are just kind of excuses. I think that is getting to a point where it's just at this point, it's just sad. And that you have all these adults who are supposed to be trying to make their states and their areas safe and better, and they're just not really doing it. Some are, some aren't, whatever. I mean, it's just very semantical. It just seems like it shouldn't take this long. uh, And I like too that he talked about both Republicans and Democrats. He wasn't, one lies and the other ones, they kind of take out they kind of give you amended truths, or selective information. They don't give you the full story. They give you bits and pieces. So I like that he wasn't really loyal to either side. He's like, they're both questionable, and I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. I don't really politics to me. At the end of, I look at politics like a quarter. It's two sides of the same coin, because at the end of the day, they're all part of the government, and at the end of the day, that's where all the power or the benefits or the influence comes from. At the end of the day, you can say you're this or that, but they're all part of the government, and at the end of the day, that's where the power is, and it's power being in part of the government. You can claim to be on this side or the other side, but it's all part of a government. It's all part of one entity, and they all need the government to exist in order to do that. So it don't really matter if you're on this side or that side. It's the overall entity itself. And so that's why I've never cared about picking sides. I'm like, I don't really see it's the point. That's just to make people who want to say, well, this side leans more into what I believe in versus that side that doesn't believe more into what I believe in, or their narrative or this narrative. And so you go based on that. And that's kind of what is always run under. But at the end of the day, to me, it's like it's the same side of the same coin. It's just one government, and then some people over here say, well, this is the part that we want to justify and defend, and then this is the other side that we want to justify and defend. But at the end of the day, if it came down to the government being kind of dismanded, they would all, yeah, different sides would both stand up, because it's still the government. And that's where everybody, whether you're this side of that table or that side of the other table, gets their power, their influence from. It's part of just being part of the overall government. They just have, right, it's like I can change my nameplate and call myself Bobby today, and then, 2 weeks from now, I can get a different nameplate and call myself Mercury. It don't matter. It's like I'm still working for the same. I'm still part of the same thing. So, to me, that doesn't really matter. He talked about the Kardashians. I mean, it was funny, but I didn't really care. I mean, I think that that family is interesting. I think Kris Jenner is like a great businesswoman. You can say what you want to say about them. I think Christian is a great businesswoman. She seems to be a great manager. How she's turned what Kim Kardashian kind of started from into like this multi-billion dollar, you know, clothing and TV and all. I mean, what she's been able to do with that. I mean, you can say what you want, but it seems like they all get the last laugh. Now, who knows what goes on behind closed doors and the the choices that they make, or at least what it seems as far as public perception. Um, she's still, I think she's a great businesswoman. I mean, at the end of the day, Kim Kardashian, over time, she's I think she's become a great businesswoman too. I think that they've utilized everything and they flipped it, So I say what you want to say. I ain't ever defended, not defended. I'm like, hey, they say don't hate the player, hate the game. It's kind of thing. It's like maybe yeah. It's I really did like what he did for his daughter, where basically they were on some class school trip, and they snuck out of the hotel while they were in like a different country. And when they snuck back in, the school was trying to basically kick them out because they broke the rules. And Chris Rock talked about how he basically went to the school and spoke to the principal, I'm assuming, or the dean, and was like, "You need to kick her out." And basically he didn't want his daughter to think that she could do and say anything that she wanted. He didn't want her to be entitled or spoiled. He wanted her to have some humility. I think basically he wanted her to be a decent person. And by his daughter getting kicked out of the school when she had to apply to go to another school, even apply to go to college, she had to say, why did she get kicked out of the high school, and then what she learned from it and how she wouldn't do that again. And so each time that she did that for college and going to that other high school, I guess it made her well, I mean, I think yes, responsibility, also aware of consequence, but it made her own her actions and understand that there's, action and there's consequence. You're not necessarily above anything. And I think that that's what he said. I didn't tell my wife, I didn't tell my daughter that I did it. They're not going to know until after the special comes out. But I think that that was great. I remember when I got in trouble, my mom was like, "I didn't raise you like this, and I'm gonna go to your school," or I can't remember what it was specifically. She's like, "But I'm gonna go there and let them know that I didn't raise you to be like this. I taught you better than this." I think, yeah, I was getting in trouble. I was getting in trouble making some. This is when I was like really young, like maybe even early teen, preteen, and I was just acting out and just getting in trouble. And she's like, "I didn't raise you to be like this, so they're gonna know that it's you. It's not me. You're doing this because this is what you want to do, and not because I'm like I don't say irresponsible parent, but like I'm not just letting you do whatever you want to do and not." Teaching you to do better. She's like, "No, you're doing this because that's what you want to do, and they're not gonna be thinking that it's me out here looking like Boo Boo the Fool." And so yeah, I think that that was great what he did. I think that, and that was a good like a good responsible fatherly thing. He saw where it was going, and he's like, no, she needs to learn this lesson, and hopefully it will make her better. Um, and then so I think he did, and he talks about how his mom goes to visit her like two times out of the year. How his mom was born like in 1945 during that time, and how African Americans were treated. And so she gets to have those conversations with her granddaughter, and that probably helps a little bit too with the daughter's humility to appreciate what she has in life. So I thought that was overall really good and really cool. He also talked about dating younger versus older women. He said he's like, "I'm not trying to get Anita Baker, but Anita Baker looks really great for her age." He said, "I'm trying to get Doja Cat." So I mean, I thought that I just thought this was an overall great review. I mean, great review. I thought it was an overall great hour stand up. I do like that Netflix did it live streamed. I thought that was cool. I do love the mic drop at the end once he finished talking about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett and kind of getting it off his chest. It was just kind of cool to see that. Again, I do wish it was longer, like another maybe hour and another half an hour, maybe another 4 hour. But maybe maybe it would have kind of fell off. So I think maybe he did exactly what he needed to do. But either way, if you like this review, hit the like button. Please subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. Other than that, see you next time. Bye bye.